Alexa, I'm busy trying to finish this message because frankly I don't want to talk forever and a day, and I hope that this might be my last part. I'm busy trying to explain that the human race is under severe judgment, and they're under severe judgment for all the myriads of reasons that I have explained in the previous parts up to and including this one, that you might understand why it is that you got left behind. And now this is a segment that I call, if you are involved in any kind of calamitous business practice, you have starved a child, you have killed a woman, you have raped a girl, you have participated in the mutiny against literally anybody else that's having too much of a hard time on the earth. And so why some of y'all are going to still be sitting here despite the fact that you fast, you pray, you go to church every Sunday, you never fornicated before marriage, and so you married your marriage night, you conjugated basically, you consummated your marriage vows, you get my point, you had sex for the first time in your marriage, you did all of that stuff, basically what would be the checks and the ticks of godliness. But you have a business, you sell hair products, you have a business, you sell pens and pencils, you have a business, you sell memory cards, you have a business, you sell face creams, you have a business, you sell toilet paper, you have a business, you sell, I don't know, even Bible. Like you that person that's got a business, and in your business you have made a total decision to disregard market research. You have made a total decision to disregard sound business practices, no, not according to the earth, but heaven. The earth tells you you can hook up as much of a profit markup as you want, insofar as it's not for a good that the government has put a ceiling price on. So it's not bread, it's not rice, it's not even water, it's just a memory card. And so because your country's laws allow for you to be as unscrupulous and predatory as you can be, you disregard WWJD. Okay, and so therefore you are taking food out of the stomach of that child in the Tigray region in Ethiopia that frankly is a victim of your rapacity. You do not have to partake in unsavory business practices as they are tabulated in your country's statutes, because at the end of the day you are run not so much by your government's laws but by your country's. It is first the laws of God and then those of your countries, and if they're aligned then you're in good territory, but if they're not, God's laws come first. It's like laws allowing abortion. Many of our countries allow them, but you're a Christian, you don't get to do that. So it doesn't matter that your country's cool with it, God isn't. Well, the same thing is true with pricing strategies in corporates. If you are a CEO and executive, if you are a marketing strategist, whatever, if you run just a basic hair product business, if you're a Christian, operate by the standards of God, of heaven, and not of earth. And so you've got a responsibility to think about literally the kid in Ethiopia that doesn't have food. That's what you need to do as a Christian. Might be a high calling, a tough one, and some of y'all might call it virtue signaling, but herein lies the deal. There is a holiness without which no one will see God. You do not get to make it impossible for the regular woman and man on the street that is among the oppressed, the widows and the orphans that God cares for. You don't get to make your business inaccessible by them. You literally do not get to do that. Guys, we don't get to be Donna Karen. We don't. Grabbing fabrics that are made in a cheap factory in China and putting a 10,000 rands price tag on them. Not the Christian. Not us. Because to put a jacket on a child should not cost more than whatever it is that it costs for that jacket to make, plus perhaps a 50% markup, maybe 100%, double the price of what you used to pay for it. Whatever is fit for your conscience, but you don't get to go and price that jacket 10,000% markup. When you bought it, made it, the total cost of production was like $1.50, and then you go and you sell that jacket for $700. No. You don't get to do that. You know why? Because the very kid that made that jacket, that silk little scarf in some strange factory that is super stuffy, and it's just a child, so therefore it's child labor. You know, that kid is an orphan, a widow, is that woman that sewed that zip on, that God really deeply is caring for, that has got that stupid job, the company of which sold that product for $1.50 that you marked up for 5,000%. And so that woman, if at all, they sold that whole thing for $1.50. What is their salary? What is their wage? 50 cents? Yes, maybe even 35 cents. So here it is that a person earned 35 cents to make a jacket that you sold for $750. Yeah, I'm using dollars because it's currently the world reserve currency, but you get my point. Y'all gonna have to understand why you is still hanging out on on the earth when the rapture happens. Especially those of you who are in business. Those of you who are in business are in a much more responsible position to price your products, and not according to the market. You're a Christian, but according to God, because your decisions directly impact widows and orphans in parts of the world that you would never frequent even for a holiday. And God cares about those souls, because heaven rejoices when even one sinner repents. But you don't care, because you're in Johannesburg living in some Lonnie joint in Sandton, and you gotta sell some stuff on Etsy. You gotta sell some stuff on your online store that you created through Shopify. You gotta make some money. Literally, a girl gotta eat. Yeah, we get it, but so too does that kid gotta eat. And all that his mama done got is 35 cents from the thing that you're selling on Etsy that you purchased for $1.50 for $500. Yeah, no, you are a problem. And I just got swindled in so a capacity as a poor woman that literally needs every last rand in my bank account. And I had to pay for a memory card that I later found out on Take a Lot was more than half the price of what I paid for it online, where it is that usually you find things more expensively, and yet these people were sitting in Chinatown. Now let me tell you a little bit of a story about China. Let me tell you a little bit of a story about perception marketing. Yeah, no, if you have worked in corporate for even a season, you will understand what this is about. If you have worked in industrial engineering, anywhere at all within trade and industry, if you have worked with pricing models, you will understand what perception means to the end consumer. And if you go and you use that at the expense of people to become a predator, you might, like, literally, how about you go and grab the key to the bottomless pit from Christ's hands, open that bottomless pit and hop in there like you're an Olympic diver. Might as well go to hell. Listen up. China. Perception management. It is generally perceived that things in China are cheap, or Chinatowns across countries are cheap. It is generally perceived by the lay man and woman on the street that goes to purchase products there. It is generally perceived that because you are selling in such a lowly environment in comparison to like a mall or whatever, and also because it like stank over there, and they are happy to negotiate prices. You can't go to Discount and start to negotiate. I'm bring down the price to 5 rand. I want to buy this Benz All Pro for 75 bucks instead of 70, but instead of 100 rands. You don't get to do that at Discount. Like, for the price that they pay to be at Clearwater Mall, they get to put a price and you must pay it, and that's just deal. But when you go to Chinatown, you can talk a person down to basically nothing, all right? Because they're not within that official commerce environment. They're still negotiating, trying to get themselves, for instance, in a mall. So there is a perception about China that everything there starts out cheap, and you can get even cheaper and cheaper. You can literally get away out of there scot-free because they know the prices for which they acquire these things. Now, with that perception gawking at you, when it's staring at you, yawning a beautiful yawn, you must understand, therefore, that people who get out of their house and drive kilometers upon kilometers, right past malls, right past their local grocery store, right past whatever, to get to Chinatown, they're doing that because they think it's worth the petrol. They are doing that because they perceive that because it's Chinatown, I'm going to get cheaper Nutella at the supermarket there, I'm going to get cheaper knickknacks, I'm going to get a cheaper pie, I am going to get cheaper noodles, I'm going to get cheaper pasta, I'm going to get cheaper bread, cheaper zippers for my haberdashery store. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go and look in that environment to get out cheapos. So if you are going to pass up the hypermarket Macro, if you're going to pass up the bulk buying place Macro will be the tantamount of this country's like Walmart, okay? If you're going to drive right past Macro and go to a Chinatown, literally, for somebody who doesn't have petrol, farther down the road, a good like 35 kilometers extra, and so therefore guzzle more of my gas, a gas of which really, if I run out of a full tank, I'm just, again, I have to like hustle that. If I'm driving past Macro, which, you know, is generally understood to be cheap, if I drive past Macro, it's only because I think it's worth my while. It's only because I think it's worth my while. I'm a bargain hunter now. I've been made price sensitive. So when I drive into Chinatown, this uncomfortable environment that frankly I don't like the smell of, I assume by perception that because it's China, the price is already going to start low, and that whatever product I find there is going to be lower than even at Macro. On 2 occasions have I found a product more expensive at Chinatown than at Macro, and what these people are climbing the wave of is perception management. It is literally perception. They understand that people think our prices are cheaper. So upon, in and of themselves, perceiving this trend that people are flooding to them because they're getting the same products for a fraction of the price. They have started to grab certain of their merchandise in their stores and hyperinflate those prices even above. If it's a techno store, an electronic store, hi-fi corporation, they are pricing loftier than game. They are pricing loftier than macro, the electronics section. They are pricing so much more predatorily above the prices of mall stores, mainstream commercial, like retail outlets that are, they don't waver in the price. You can't talk down a salesperson at macro for a television because this is how much you're gonna pay for the TV. It's 15 grand, dude. You don't get to ask me to buy it for 13,000. What are you doing? Unless you want to buy 20 of these TVs, and maybe I can call my manager. But right now it's 15 or get out. Go find it at macro. Then you don't get to rock up a game and insist that you're gonna get this for 13,000. What do you think this is, Chinatown? Exactly. But at Chinatown you can talk a salesman down from 15,000 rands for a flat screen TV to 10,000. But these people have identified the human heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. They have identified that people perceive that things are cheaper here. So before even doing their research, they just rock up and insist on buying their TVs from me. So now I can't help it. I can't help it. So I'm going to make the TV 20,000 rands at Chinatown because I know they're no longer going to even try to look for it at Game. I know they're not even going to try and look for it at Macro. I know they're not even going to try and look at it for look for it at Hi-Fi Corporation. I am pretty sure that these people are not even going to pass out an incredible connection for their laptop. They're going to come straight to me because I'm in Chinatown. I am literally going to set up shop in Chinatown because here I can set up inflated prices, but people are not going to know that mine are the most expensive in the market because of perception. Yes, of course, there might be the one smart guy that rocks up and is like, what in the world? You're selling a 32 gig memory card for 250 bucks. You're selling a 32 gig memory card for 350. One dude went up to 450 for 32 gigs. 32 gigs. Yeah, but some people aren't gonna know that memory cards, the demand for them has increased so much in the market, and there is so much competition now that no longer are they expensive as they used to be back in the day. So you can literally get a 125 gig memory card for 150 bucks at Hi-Fi Corp, which is a mainstream mall type store. And I bought my memory card of 32 gigs for 200 bucks after talking a dude down from 250, and his was the store that was the cheapest in the first initial quote. The first guy that I asked when I walked in quoted me 350 bucks for 32 gigs. 350. So by the time I found a dude that was charging me 250, and then I talked him down to 200 rands, I thought I had gotten a bargain until I googled on the freaking internet, because I was already at Chinatown and I didn't want to make the trip again and again and again because frankly I don't like going out. I went there to buy what is this, toner. I went there to purchase another moisturizer for my face because what's current, like, stuff is not working out for me right now. The other one is still too oily and I wanted a day moisturizer, so I bought this body moisturizer for my face. That's why I went there, because I'm trying to deal with my acne. I'm still trying to figure out my skincare. I'll eventually come and tell you guys what's happening with my skin. But when I was there, I was like, oh, I don't want to have to go to Hi-Fi Corp. I don't want to go on the internet and research. I got lazy. I told you guys, as Christians, we literally cannot investigate and peruse and figure out what in the world is going on everywhere. But if it was possible, even the elect of God would be deceived, and I was deceived. That is the level of wickedness in these last days. I generally am very thorough with my research before I make any purchase, but yesterday or day before, I was like, I mean, goodness, I don't want to have to drive out again. And I also went out on a Sunday where I woke up feeling uncomfortable, so it was like, I was kind of sickish in the morning, but I had to go on the Sunday because the store where I would buy this moisturizer, where I would buy my face cream, they only open from Thursday to Sunday, and I don't want to have to wait until next Thursday. So I had to go on the Sunday. So I therefore did not want to have to go to Clearmore Water, walk from store to store, go on the internet, find I don't want to do that. I had told myself I'll go on Monday, but because I did not want to get out of the yard again, because I hate being out in public, it is a whole issue now with the social phobia because of what people have done to me. I want to make one trip and I'm done. So since I was already there, I was like, this is Chinatown. That was my mindset. I was like, this is Chinatown. Chances are this is the place, the one environment where I am going to find the cheapest memory card. I already am running on empty in terms of money, more or less. I literally cannot afford to just spend 100 rand more on a product than what it is that it retails for online or at Macro, for crying out loud. Could have just gone to Macro. Guys, yeah, no, I found out when I finally googled the price of a 32, and the thing about China is there are no returns. There's like literally a no return policy. You break it, you bought at one of those stores, and also if you get out, you don't get a return. You can't return anything. Like, it's a high risk environment to purchase items, so they price things as low as they do because literally there is no returning them. you buy it and you get out, and you don't come back and ask for a refund. So an environment like that for a retailer, a person that could easily afford to purchase a space at a mall, will make a decision that no, at a mall I'm going to have to abide by the consumer protection laws of this country. I'm going to have to give people a refunds. I'm going to have to come up with policy with a pricing strategy that is satisfactory to like the government. There's so much more regulation out of selling things at malls. Do you understand? So therefore, if at all you want to elude a lot of businesses, if you want to launder a lot of money, if you want to rather operate with cash and cash only and you don't take card, if you want to do, you just go and get a store or get a store in Chinatown and price as violently as you want to without people having the option to return a product. They can't return a product. They can't return it. And if it does not work, they still can't return it. Like, that's just how things work there. So when you buy things at China, it is literally buy at your own risk. Yeah. So can you see how somebody would make a decision deliberately to start a business there, to run one from there, despite their disquiet, their discomfort, where they live in a mansion in Houghton, looking as if they're just trying to make ends meet? I mean, I'm selling in Chinatown, life is hard, but they deliberately make a decision to sell there because it is there where they get away with an exquisite amount of murder. It is there where they get away with the kind of murder that they just would not be able to get away with when they are selling out of Clearwater Mall. There's too much regulation in this mainstream shopping industry. So I'm gonna go Hong Kong. My China. When I found like the 32 gig memory card that I purchased that comes inside this thing, it's a 32 gig. I could have purchased such a much bigger one, but now I have to stop recording and change it out, transfer the content to my phone instead of just one big fat recording spree. I was upset because I don't have money already, but then it confirmed to me that we're in the last days that people have done this thing. It never used to be like that historically. It's a new trend. It is a new trend where people are seeing the loopholes, and so they are predatorily just exploiting consumers on the end. I found a 32 gig memory card for 64 rands. 64 rand. The cheapest one I found was on Take A Lot, and it is free delivery. They could get it to me within I think either 24 hours or 7 days or whatever. They could deliver it to my yard on Take A Lot, and I bought it at Chinatown for $200, where the first guy quoted me 450. So if I had just blindly assumed, oh, China must be the cheapest, I mean, if this thing is going for 450 at this store, then I mean, goodness, if I go to Macro Incredible Connection Game, I'm gonna get it for like $700. So I might as well just buy it here. Here it is at this bargain hunter. I've been made a bargain hunter. Got swindled. I could have gotten it for 64 mega rands and saved $150, and yet it was quoted me by one guy in one store for 450. So if at all Take A Lot can afford to sell it for 64 rands, what under heaven are they buying it for? What is the price for which they are purchasing it? It's like this camera that I'm using to record these videos. There is somebody who was selling it for 4,000 rands when I got it for 1.5 on an international market. How much are they buying it for? That they can inflate the price so very much. The very thing that I lamented about at the very beginning of the series when I was complaining about unscrupulous, unsavory South African frigging illegalities. And this is a thing that's happening in my South Africa, but I'm pretty certain it's a global issue. Much like the pharmaceuticals industry refusing to come up with a cure for cancer but would much rather treat it. Well, here it is that regular businessmen and women on the street are making a decision to hyperinflate prices of things that they are getting for a cent, 2 cents, 35 cents, and they're selling them for 450 rands. I'm pretty sure that when you bulk buy these memory cards, you probably buy one. If at all you are bulk purchasing them, 32 gigs, 125 gigs, etc. from these factories, you are probably purchasing one of them for literally under 50 cents. And right now I'm probably speaking in rand terms, never mind dollars. 50 cents, maybe 75 cents, maybe even a rand is how much they're getting each one. And that's why they can like price down so much. On Take A Lot it was $64. Go China, one of the stores you can buy for 440 and 50 rands if you're dumb. It made me realize that the reason why the guy or the store where my camera came from could afford to just easily let go of the refund that was given me. It made me realize that the reason why he or she was able to do that is because literally it's a pin drop in the ocean in comparison to the profit markup this thing actually is, how much I actually buy it from the factory in China. I thought it was maybe potentially like $30 and they're selling it for $85, but now I realize it's probably more along the lines of $5, maybe even $4, maybe even $1 for this little camera, and it is being sold for $85 online. And some people went out of their way to make that $85, of which converts into about $1,500, at least currently at the dollar and exchange rate that we're dealing with at the moment. But there is somebody in South Africa, a reliable store, that sold it for 4,300 and something, almost 5,000 rands. This camera with this quality that I am recording with now, I opened one of my videos to see the quality of this camera on my Mac, and it's not as good as the quality of my cell phone. Both of them, both the Android and the iOS, the quality is not as good, because indeed the main prerogative of this camera, it's called a vlogging camera, but for the better part it is there to record, to take photos, very, very high quality pics. So videos are just kind of blurry, lackluster, and for that kind of quality random stuff, 4,300. Are you for real? I might as well buy a second-hand iPhone that is old school. Might as well buy a second-hand Android device, because they have got better quality videos. But it's okay, I've got the camera now and I got it for free, and I'm grateful for that, because I realized that if at all I had been charged for it, I would have been upset with the quality. But that doesn't matter. God made that happen. He kind of put salve into my wound since I got this one for free. I've explained that to you guys historically in the past. I started out here, but even all that activity with me getting this phone, the corruption of the South African Post Office, the corruption of the lack of protection of sellers, of buyers online, all these issues with trade and industry that could make economies that much smoother across the world, to therefore feed every lost soul in the world. They are not being fed, because there are people who are literally charging 10,000, 20,000% worth of a profit markup on products, and so therefore taking food out of the belly of the people that made these memory cards. The labor, probably the child labor, sitting in China, sitting in Thailand, sitting in some African country that are making these devices, they could literally afford to pay them 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, maybe even 40 times more, since they've got a 10,000% markup. They can afford to pay them for the cost price of this 40 times more and still make a handsome profit, yet they choose to pay them that 50 cents, the 50 cents of which barely makes for a loaf, a slice of bread for an entire family. A man that would make like 70 of these a day, or a man that would make like in a week 500 of these, takes home the equivalent of 500 rands, the equivalent of 500 rands in wages to feed a family of 7. If you were South African, you would know what 500 rand is. It's nothing. People get their weaves installed for 1,500 rands, never mind 500. And yet there is a man or a woman or even a child earning 500 rands a week for making 500 of these, and so their hands are blistery, and that food, that money can't even buy enough food to last them that week, because there are so many of them. And with that, they also have to travel, pay for transportation, like have to take into consideration everything. These are the things that are going to be sending people not only to the flames of hell, but throwing them in the tribulation, despite calling themselves businessmen and women. I'm just earning a living and God has no problem with it. I have got a store in Chinatown. I get to do that. But then they realize the perception of people walking into Chinatown, that prices here are going to be cheap, inflate prices like no man's business. Karabo unsuspectingly purchases a 32 gig memory card for literally triple the price of the cheapest one that I could have found on Take A Lot, evidencing that this thing but the cost price of it at the wholesaler, the retailer, even the manufacturer is so low that this individual, since you have made a decision to charge 450 rands for this thing, and you've got consumers on the outside that are happy to purchase it for 450 bucks, why then are you not paying the manufacturer 5 times, 4 times, 10 times how much it is that you bought it for, just so his family can eat? Why aren't you doing that? And also, you don't even know who in the world you're selling to here in this Chinatown that is working with perception. Today you sold this 32 gig memory card for 200 bucks to Karabo, and she has no money. She's broken, she's devastated, she's torn. Life sucks, and 200 bucks is a lot of money, and every so often her skin breaks out and she needs to try and see what she needs to do about that situation. She can't deal, she's shivering, she's cold, her family is not taking care of her, nobody is looking at her, and there's like some deranged man that's trying to marry her by force because he thinks it's a Saudi Arabia. yeah, where you can just grab whatever wife you want on the shelf. That's the woman that you charge $200 for a 32 gig memory card, and now she has to keep on taking it out and putting it back in, taking it out and putting it back in, taking it out and putting it back in. But yes, might be on the receiving end of your spiritual harlotry, but the people who are suffering the most are the individual souls who made every last individual one of these memory cards that they can retail for so a tiny price as this, and still get people like profiting like millions to be able to afford them houses in upmarket suburbia. Do you understand? For selling these things in their electronic store, for selling these things in their electronic stores. Like the same electronic store where I bought these things, I wanted to buy a tripod, and the dude who was working in the store told me it's $280. I found a tripod on the internet that's $150. I was like, okay, so double the price, but it was at China. So perception, you're literally riding that wave. I then saw that they had a gaming keyboard there. I bought a gaming keyboard from Cash Converters, which is also a little bit more mainstream than Chinatown. Their gaming keyboard was $450. $450. I got mine for $250. I was like, wow. I then was like, what about the non-gaming keyboard? They were selling it for $300 and something bucks, and I'm pretty sure that same keyboard that's not gaming, it's a regular one, would probably retail for $150 at Macro. I started to then notice that places like Macro, like Game, like Checkers and whatnot, they are selling things that are at Chinatown for literally twice or three times the price, for indeed a fraction of the price, at places that we imagine we gotta drive past because they are mainstream and they're chilling in malls, so they are going to be more expensive. So residents who sell at places like Chinatown have seen that they can ride the wave of perception, and so literally skyrocket prices of stores that you reliably go to, where you can get a refund, you can get a warranty, you can get a guarantee, you can get yourself protected, you can get buyer protection. If you don't like how your camera's operating, go Macro, you've got 30 days to return it. If you don't like the quality, you can return it. If you don't like the how this thing is functioning, if I had put this thing in my camera and it didn't work, I wouldn't have been able to return it. $200 would have been flushed down the drain, so I literally had to just cross my fingers. I had to cross my fingers, you guys. Yeah, that's the incredible harlotry, insanity that's going on out here in these streets. And people are cavalier walking around like, oh, come on, Carvalho, you're so sensitive. Girl, it ain't that deep. No, it is. It literally is that deep. I promise you right now, it is that deep. It is that deep. People in honchis, thank you, that's what they call them. I'm a honchi. These places where you find the cheapos, no longer are they actually cheap. They are charging prices that exceed. Imagine going, guys, you know how expensive iPhones are. Imagine going into an iPhone, selling random honchi at a Chinatown, and they've got real iPhones, and you buy an iPhone 13 for 10,000. And you buy an iPhone 13 for they're currently retailing, last time I checked, for I think there was one that I saw on the internet for 13,000 rands, and then you go and you purchase it for 20,000 rands because you assume that it is going to be cheaper there, and then you realize you bought it for 7,000 rands more. Yeah, when you switch it on and you charge it, it's a real iPhone. It is real. It's not like it's a fake iPhone, but you got swindled. That's what's happening. That is what is happening. And y'all think that it's okay to do things like these. So if you are a Christian businesswoman and you sell hair products, and your individual ingredients each cost half of a cent, and then you sell this product for $200, far be it from you to imagine you're entering into the kingdom of heaven. Far be it from you. Not only, sometimes there's nothing you can do about how much you buy a thing for, because the chick in Indonesia that had to make it, that's only 7 years old, unfortunately you can't reach them and pay them the right price, and if anything, get them off the labor market. You can't, but you can basically pay your service to humanity by refusing to sell your product for inflated prices, because it goes against God. This world is not the be all and end all, guys. We have got a heaven to look forward to. We've got a millennial reign to also look forward to reigning in, and in the millennial reign, God is going to basically recalibrate scales. He is going to show people what it is that fair trade and industry looks like. Indeed, the scriptures make it clear. It is written here, therein, it's all over those with the word of God. It is written in the scriptures that no longer will people plant and not reap the work of their hands. No longer are people going to plant vineyards and not be able to eat the grape that they have planted. So this labor market, this just incredible hard knock blue collar labor of picking apples and carrying them on your back and putting them in a truck so that they can be sold at Woolies while you get some stupid salary. No longer are you going to harvest the field and not be the one to consume its fruit. That is what the Lord said about the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. And so even though people are not going to, of course, if you own a vineyard, you're not going to be able to eat all the grapes that your vineyard produces, but God is saying that you're going to get the salary Jew that is going to make sure that when you harvest that vineyard, as the man working with his bare hands and blue collar labor, you're going to get the equivalent of selling that product to a Woolies to resell. You're going to be the one living in the Cape winelands, those estate mansions. You who are picking the actual apples, the blue collar laborers, they're going to live in the kinds of houses that, if at all you own a vineyard, you live in them. No longer is a person going to work like a dog and not be able to collect an appropriate salary. So there will not be a differentiator between a person with a degree from this university versus one that's never studied because of circumstances, but they work harder than the degreed guy. But because you went to school, you earn a 50,000 rand salary a month, while this dude that is working harder than you gets to go home with 4,000 rands a month. No more is any such thing going to happen. Literally, God is going to give regard to every industry. He's going to give regard to every type of job. There will no longer be such a thing as blue collar and white collar. There will no longer be such a thing as you're a carpenter, so you don't make that much. There will no longer be such a thing as all you do is pick fruit. All you do is just sew scarves. All you do is, you, like, if you make cars, you are just as good as if you make scarves. If you sew like little booties for babies' feet, the amount of work and the labor that you put in there is just as good as your speculative activity in the stock market. Not that those will exist in the tribulation, I don't think they will. If you are an accountant and you studied real hard, the work that you put in, those hours will be the exact equivalent to somebody who is knitting booties for babies, the BB, little hats, whatever little tiny piece job you do nails, you're going to earn the salary of a CEO if you put in all that time. So no more are people going to be able to boast Gadi title. Let me do the next part after taking a shower, guys, because I'm not done.